There have been a couple of periods in my life where visual disturbances have been really sticky and difficult for me. But when I actually think about it, I've probably always been able to see some degree of visual disturbance. As a kid, I was able to kind of tune in the static in and out, or I'd maybe see floaters and end up playing with them and watch them just bounce around in my vision and not really give it a second thought. It was just there if I paid attention to it and I could see it, but I was also able to tune it out and get on with whatever it was that I was doing. I didn't think there was anything wrong because I didn't really see it as a problem. But there were two periods where it became something very different. The first time was after a particularly stressful period in my life, and it was really difficult. It was all-consuming, and there were times where I felt like it was all I could really see, and it was certainly all that I thought about. I remember the feeling of it just gripping my eyes, if that makes any sense at all, and the sky started to look like a petri dish in a science lab. I remember sitting in an old therapy room that I was in that was really bright and white, and I would just really struggle to concentrate because it would be so prominent everywhere that I would look. At nighttime in particular, when you're traditionally supposed to see darker things, I would see white static everywhere. I would try and cook and I would look down and find it really difficult to separate the knife from my hand and think, oh my God, I'm going to have to stop doing this because I'm going to end up slicing one of my fingers off. Looking back, what stands out to me the most is just how quickly it started to take over my attention. It became the first thing I thought about when I woke up, and it was definitely the last thing I thought about before I went to sleep. I got caught in this spiral that I often see a lot of other people get pulled into as well, and it goes something like, oh, I noticed this thing. I don't like that I'm noticing it. I'm trying to stop noticing it. And then I'd panic. And then it would become, oh my God, what if I never stop noticing this? And this is me forever. And then from there, the fear around the symptoms really cemented themselves. Because there was such a fear around these symptoms, everything that I did developed like an extra step around it. I wasn't just looking at the sky anymore. I'd check my vision and then I'd look at the sky. I wasn't looking at my phone anymore. I would check my vision and then I'd look at my phone. I wouldn't read a book. I'd check my vision and then I'd read the book. It was just this little behavior that got added in before anything that I did. It was all that I thought about when doing anything. I would avoid concentrated sources of light like a candle or a nightlight because I was convinced that if I looked at it for long enough, I would create some sort of like visual burning in my eyes, like an OLED TV screen when something's been on it for such a long amount of time, but it just kind of stays there as like a ghost image. I was scared that that was going to happen to me because of something that I'd looked at for too long. But eventually I overcame the fear of it and they started to settle down and naturally just diluted away. That was the first time. The second time was actually probably a bit more frustrating because I knew what it was, I knew how it operated, I didn't have the mystery behind it that I once had, and I had a bit of confidence that I'd been through this before. But the mistake that I made was assuming that just because I did what I did last time, that it would go away. But that really tripped me up because I was doing what I did last time, but I was doing something more in that I was checking to see had it worked yet. Ultimately, shocking when it didn't, I would panic and think, oh my God, am I doing it properly? I'd be checking to see, is it working? Why isn't it working yet? Why isn't it settling as quickly as I wanted it to? And it just became really frustrating. But after a while, I caught myself, realized what I was doing, and then I just gave myself permission to leave it alone. I didn't need to do the checking. I didn't need to scan to see how severe it was or compare, is it any better today than it was yesterday? I just allowed it to be there for as long as it needed to be, and then slowly it started to settle again. Now, if you're watching this and you're in the thick of visual disturbances, I know how convincing it can feel when your brain is telling you that this is how it's always going to be. I can't envision ever feeling any better, especially when it's so present in your vision. But I hope hearing my story has helped some people reclaim a bit of hope and a bit of faith that they can get better too, because trust me, if I can do it, anybody can. There is nothing special about me and what I did. You are capable too, but you need to try and build up the confidence to leave this alone as best you can.